Welcome to the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies, where there's always another secret.
Hello, I'm Jordan, and I am joined, as always, by my misty-eyed co-hosts, Amy, Bill, as we are here on May 22nd, episode 136 of the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies, where we're going to be touching on some, it's going to be a tearjerker today, folks. But before we get started, we want to remind you that the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies is not a spoiler-free podcast, especially today. That means that if there is something in the Cosmere you haven't read, in particular, Era 2 of Mistborn, you might want to go catch up, then come back.
Yeah, this is the one that Brandon introduced as the gloves are off. So
yeah. So gloves are off, both with spoilers and with your feelings. So many emotions. So yeah, today we're going to be talking about All Endless Things, which is the end.
And if you know, you know.
If you don't, go read a book.
If you can,
particularly this one. Yeah. For those of you who listen to the podcast recordings or watch the videos on YouTube, we'd like to remind you that it's possible for our listeners to interact with us live via chat, as we have some absolutely lovely souls watching us live here today over at twitch.tv/innkeeperstable. We record the episodes of the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies every other Monday night, starting at 7:30 p.m. Pacific, 10:30 p.m. Eastern. So come join us. You're going to have a ton of fun. You're going to love it. So yeah, we also want to thank our patrons. Come support us. It's awesome. Patreon.com/Cosmere Studies is where you go. And yeah, you're gonna love it. Anyway, let's I'm kind of wanting to rush to this just because
you're excited.
I'm very excited. Also, for those of you wondering, what the crap, that's not Bill. It's true, I am not Bill.
I've been very sick.
Yeah.
So and so now I sound like Jordan. I mean, no, wait.
No, I've been very sick and I sound like Jordan. What? Anyway, I'm actually getting over some strep throat. It was great. This is not confusing at all. No, I just I made the docs today because Bill's busy at work. So here we are. I mean, Bill, you still can do.
Are we ready for it?
Right? Yeah.
Cosmere Thing of the Week.
All right, Amy, why don't you tell us about the Cosmere Thing of the Week while I scramble and try and get this pulled up on.
All right, so so I'm on TikTok as my podcast thing as well as my cosplay thing anyway, but when I was looking through the podcast one, and I randomly came across Rick Martin, and he has made apparently 3 different versions of a Chasmfiend out of Legos.
Now, did you say Rick Martin?
His username is Rick Martin.
Not the Latin singer dancer.
No,
guy.
It's not Ricky Martin. No.
Okay.
We have no proof that it's not.
He doesn't sound like it if he is using his real voice, and sometimes people do use.
That's clearly not using his real voice. There's a modulator on.
Is there? Okay, it's
there's
been
absolutely
a
a modulator on.
Okay. Anyway, I don't think it's Ricky Martin. Anyway, but yeah, so he doesn't have documentation that I've seen in there of what the previous 2 versions were, but he said that they were not as great, and this one is really cool, and he's going to put up plans for it so you can make it yourself. So anyway, it's a short little video. We have the link there. If not, I mean, you could always just look up Rick Martin and then Chasmfiend or something on TikTok, and you probably could find it. But yeah, so it's pretty cool. I mean, you look at it and you're like, oh my goodness, I need this. I need the plans now. And so I reposted it. Because you can do that with TikTok. Like if you like a video, you can repost it.
All I know is looking at it is there's no way I could do this with Legos when I was a kid.
Oh yeah, like that's craziness.
I don't think they had these joints.
He said he's posting instructions for how to do it.
Yeah, he said he's going to. He hasn't yet, from what I know. Mm-hmm. But if he does, then I will probably be like, guys, it's out. So yeah, it looks cool. Lego.
It looks
and all that.
incredible.
We've
I guess
had
we
a
have
lot
a
of Lego
theme.
stuff. Yeah,
We have had a lot of Lego stuff. Yeah.
the
but it's
Storm
fine.
Lego archive.
I like it.
Oh.
You know what? What if that's the adaptation of Stormlight we finally get? It's the people who
Ooh.
made the Lego movie, but it's Stormlight
I'm
Archive.
in. I would
could,
watch,
yeah, I would do it. Yeah, that's fun.
especially if Lego Batman makes an appearance.
It's Lego
Oh, man.
Batman, but they claim it's a different character, but it's just clearly
Lego
Will Arnett's
Crabman.
just doing.
It's got to be a crab.
Will Arnett voices
Yeah.
Kaladin.
Oh goodness.
You know
Actually,
Kaladin. Kaladin is basically
the.
their version of Batman.
Yeah,
It's true.
he even flies and the whole thing, and he broods. All that,
Batman doesn't fly.
yeah. He has planes, and he has like his cloak. He sometimes sort of.
I'm
flies.
just saying, if we're talking about superheroes, Batman
Okay.
is the one who, I mean,
He glides.
maybe Flash less than Batman, but still.
He can glide anyway. Did we thank the new patrons, Jordan?
We've already we
did.
don't have any since last week.
Okay, wasn't sure.
But yeah. Anyway, now I gotta see. This is the problem with me hosting. Suddenly, where I put things has to completely change. All right, it's time for Sanderson news.
I need to make a sound drop for this.
We do.
This is one I keep intending to do, but I haven't got it yet.
All right. Is that the sound effect we'll go with?
I don't even know what the sound was. Was it just like a little tingly?
It was Bill's tech sound effect.
Oh,
anyway,
okay.
Sanderson news. Stormlight 5 is now at 46% Bing. And the interesting thing, he has to turn it in by June 1st of next year. I just kind of laugh. It sounds like it's like he has a book report.
I know.
Jordan, when you said Bing, I thought you were quoting Groundhog Day. It's like,
No.
Bing again?
No, I've yet to turn this into a Groundhog Day based podcast. I feel like that'd be a little limiting.
Oh yeah.
Or have we? How many times have we done this episode?
That's a fair point. I don't know.
Hmm.
And then Skyward Legacy's at 22%. Then apparently Tor's repackaging Alloy of Law, and it's available for pre-orders. It's going to have new covers to max the Wax and Wayne other books.
You mean
because there is a mild difference between.
Yeah,
like there's it's a little bit more impressionist, and on the first book, and then they sort of solidified the character looks.
Yeah, because it has Era 1 has the whole set out already, and now they're starting on Era 2.
Oh yeah, so they're not matching.
They're matching. They're having
Era
the same
1.
Era 1.
Oh,
yeah,
okay. I misunderstood.
Yeah, I was like, that's no. They're
that.
working
I was
on,
like, that sounded wrong, but what you're saying, Amy, sounds right.
Okay.
Yeah, so Era 1 is all out. Era 2, they are starting doing it now, kind of.
This is what happens when Jordan does the Sanderson news. We get mistakes.
Okay.
Can't trust him with anything. Then they did a Thursday live stream with Wes Chu. It was posted. Apparently, Brandon and him went to high school together.
Without knowing it.
But yeah, they didn't know that until later.
And like a few years apart, I think they said.
Yeah, he was only there 1 year, like overlapping.
I was out being a Jawa that day, so I haven't seen it still.
I actually
like
was
you
looking
do.
for. I couldn't find it. So I haven't seen it yet either. I was looking for it. 5 favorites with Gamma Ray Martinez, which I love saying that. And I know it's Gamma Ray, but as a scientist, I like the idea of Gamma Ray as a name. It's been posted. They covered 5 favorites of literary classics, which is interesting. Apparently the Frugal Wizard truck, which was a phrase I didn't know I was gonna like, but I want the Frugal Wizard truck.
Yes.
Considering we already they know they have a forklift named Wendell.
Yeah.
I think we could go for a few more things. And apparently they have started shipping out to the first 1,700 backers, which not a lot. Which is a weird thing to say that the first 17,000.
17,000, yeah.
It's weird to say that 17,000 isn't a lot, but when you have the biggest Kickstarter of all time,
I believe there's almost 200,000 backers total.
Oof.
Yeah. And apparently, as a result of all the delays in shipping and stuff, they're going to be pushing back the Words of Radiance campaign, which I think is a smart move.
And my wallet thanks you.
And the nice thing is each time he's been updating like that they've been delaying it, is that when it would be shipped, it's still the same. It's just that they won't start the Kickstarter until later.
Yeah, well, because like he's already signing the
Yeah, so
letterboxes
they're
and
mostly
stuff.
all the signing is largely done, but it's just that he won't ask for the money until later because he's like, you know what, we want to keep your trust, and it doesn't seem fair to ask for it earlier. So,
which is a good,
it's a savvy move.
not move. I'm looking for a good.
It's a good faith move.
Yeah,
gesture.
Where it's just
there's a
Yeah.
word I'm thinking. I can't even think of it.
Oh,
Policy. That's the word. Policy.
Yeah.
Mm.
But it's just they want to make sure they're making good on all their other things first before they ask for more money.
Mhm.
And it's good.
Yeah. 185,341 backers.
Jeez.
And some of those probably ordered multiple copies. So
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll know they're done when I get mine, because I was one of the last. But we'll see. I don't know. I just like all these little updates. Being a fan of so many other things where you're constantly like, oh, I wonder when that thing will happen. It's nice to just constantly be in the loop.
well, and like I've backed way too many Kickstarters. I have some, like I have one right now that I think is just dead in the water, and we're not getting what we're promised. And so it's nice how just how well they keep in touch and keep us updated and let us know what's going on.
And the other nice thing that my husband gets emails, I don't. But it seems like I don't think Sanderson would be like, hey, here's an ad for a different product you should totally buy. Because I had one Kickstarter where it kept getting delayed and they kept putting ads for other random stuff in it. And I was like, no, that just makes my taste my mouth even worse and worse every time.
Yeah. It's an issue.
Yeah.
There's some quality issues going on there.
But
not with Dragonsteel, because they're awesome.
They are doing
Which is
great.
why they need to produce a shirt that's just the Dragonsteel logo that I can buy, because I would gladly wear it. I will shill for them.
They do have like polos or jackets or something that just have
it like
over the breast
embroidered
pockets.
or
I want a big meaty dragon S on my chest.
Amy's
I'm
got
a
one right
dragon-based
now.
Superman.
I have the dragon.
Yeah, that's the stylized one. I don't like that look.
Sorry.
I don't want I just want
Harsh.
their logo is so crisp. It's just one of the I just like their crisp logo. It's
nice.
good.
I want the statue that they've got in the Cosmere house of the logo.
Yeah, well,
I don't know that I've seen the statue.
that's going to be a harder get, I think.
Well, I don't need that exact one. I just want a replica.
See, I was worried what you were advocating was us going on some sort of 80s era heist movie, and
Listen, just
I
because
gotta
it's
tell you.
geographically possible, that doesn't mean we should do it.
The ethics are a problem, and
they are.
I'm not going to do that.
We are not breakers of oaths.
No. No, though I didn't swear an oath to not break into the Dragonsteel warehouse or Cosmere house. I don't know. Anyway, let's probably get to the discussion of this book.
So
It's a good book.
if you're still here and you haven't read it, shoo, because spoilers are going to get real. So yeah.
Kamiite just means you.
Yes. All right. So this part isn't from Wayne or Wax's perspective, but I just like the beginning with the random dude on the ship just being like terrified of the ocean. And,
Oh, yeah.
And then they come up, he's like, it's some horrible like mist wraith with 1,000 tentacles. Then he realizes, oh, it's a person. Oh no.
I love those types of perspectives in shows and books where it's like everything's happening and then suddenly you cut to somebody who's not involved, and it's just sort of they're just sort of looking at it. What does this look like to people who have no idea what's going on?
Yeah. Well, and especially this guy in particular, because like it turns out everyone else on the ship are just like utter zealots for Trell. And You got the one guy
Trollocs.
who like took the job for dental or whatever, and this entire scene's like something straight out of Venture Brothers, but in a fantasy genre because they love focusing on the henchmen. And
Well, I mean,
I
they had the same sort of thing when Wayne and Wax climbed the tower, and they're just like,
Yeah.
okay, listen, we don't want to have a bloodbath here, but we will if we have to. We're gonna give you a chance to get out of the way. Take it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, poor Welled.
And you just see all these people who were just like, yeah, I'm just here to make a buck. I'm not.
This is not my suicide mission. No, I'm leaving.
Yeah,
It turns out it is your suicide mission.
This particular one, yeah.
You just didn't know what you were signing up for.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, then
it's like someone said that I could get like a free mug if I signed up for this bank account, or I mean,
Oh man,
this crew.
but yeah, so I'd like to start off. I'm just going to read this line here. Rust, Wayne said. Is that what it's always been like for you? That was so easy, Wayne eyed him. Gotta be honest, almost ruins your reputation, mate. If people knew how easy being a coin shot was, they'd all stop talking about how great you are. Because they've both got some shiny new spikes in their bodies, letting them do some cool stuff.
I love that. Wax did it out of necessity, and Wayne's like, well, I want one too.
Yeah, if he gets one, I want one.
Here's the thing that I find more interesting: the fact that if he says it like that, it implies Wax got the spike first. Which means, I would have thought they would like, okay, let's make sure I'm doing this right. I'm going to do it to Wayne first because Wayne, because he can heal, and Wax. But even more importantly, Wax is the one who studied the book of hemalurgy. So I would have thought that Wax would have insisted, be like, okay, let's do it this way. It's safer, but time is such of the essence that he's like, okay, do it to me. And then Wayne's probably dragging his feet like, I want one.
He's like, well, if you get a shiny power, I want a shiny power. It's like, Wayne, we don't have time. I want a spike.
You get one, I get one.
But yeah,
it's only fair, mate.
It is. It's only, yeah. Trade you.
Trade you a spike. I'll stab you if you stab me.
Oh man.
Well, and on top of that, I can't remember where it is, but just the fact that he's like trying to actually mimic how he sees Wax do things. Because he's no one's had a better seat to how Waxilium Ladrian works than Wayne. And so he's kind of mimicking it. And I love he's like crashing into things trying to land, realizing it's not as easy as he makes it look. There's a real finesse to it. That said, I mean, being coin shot is probably the best of all the mistings to get if you want combat.
Yeah.
Anything that gives you anything that gives you long range, you tend to want.
Yeah.
Because you get to sort of set the terms of how things will go. But no, and then what's interesting is the fact that they are having a direct conversation with Says the entire time. Because one, they have the spikes in them, so he can talk to them.
Yes.
But two, like, Says is now seeing clearly through them in a way he hasn't been able to for a while, because autonomy has been kind of in blocking his ability to see.
Yeah.
And so them being so close, suddenly Says is looking at things and being like, that's happening. Okay. Like, and able to use
to play chess again.
Yeah. Use his divine ability to, see everything to actually connect the dots. But I love this line from let's see, where was it? I had it a second ago. Strange. He had come all the way around to finding God's voice in his head comforting again.
That's such a cool, like, watching Wax's journey. That's really cool seeing it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. If there's any lines you guys want to read in particular, just stop me at any point.
I didn't highlight any, but
Yeah.
I didn't either.
But yeah, so I like this where they discovered the bombs. It was square, perhaps 30 feet across. They had a very large barrel contraptions covered in wires, maybe 5 feet tall. Near the center, spaced about 5 feet from one another. There was another device on the far wall, also rigged with wires, these leading to 3 barrels. There were no obvious timers, control panels, or anything of the sort. It was frankly baffling. Careful, mate, Wayne said as he inspected the contraption. Be real careful. And Wayne is the one who would know, as he is the one who has blown himself up more than anyone else.
Yep, because he can come back from it usually. So
Usually.
But just the fact that they've discovered it's a dead man switch
rig, yeah.
set up with multiple redundancies to try and make it impossible for anyone to ever stop this thing from blowing up.
For anyone without adium.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, even if adium wouldn't have helped in the situation.
Without the full powers of a Mistborn.
Yeah.
And lots of skill with Bendaloy.
Yes.
Yeah, talk about Chekhov's gun, but
yeah.
But anyway, then it pops over to a fun little thing with Steris getting to interact with everyone and get everyone evacuated and stuff. Where we talk about everyone in the quartet was basically exactly where they needed to be at this moment. Because Steris was where she was, best being handled. Marasi, well, at this point, she had already done what her job was, which was to stop the gate from being opened.
Yeah,
and that's kind of the way that Sazed works with his crew. I mean, for lack of a better term, they kind of are Sazed's crew at this point.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's part of the discussion with him and Kelsier later in the book is Sazed saying everything was in hand, and Kelsier being like, "Was it though?"
Yeah.
And it's interesting because they both have some pretty good points in that moment, just because we see Sazed putting things together on the fly in kind of a very Kelsier manner as they're going through it and making realizations. And so
the problem
he's able to have that future sight, but it's not the same.
But the problem with Sazed is he's got 2 major blocks, one being his nature, his dual nature, and the second being autonomy herself.
Yeah. And so it's kind of interesting getting to see from both perspectives. I mean, look, if the Mistborn series is about anything, duality is the constant. And they both have some pretty dang good points, but not to distract too much with a conversation about Kelsier, which is, I mean, that's just catnip. So I have to steer clear. So they clear off the ship, and it took longer than they thought it would because, dealing with zealots is a problem.
Yeah.
They're zealous.
But yeah, I love this line from Wayne. Wayne said, shouldering his rifle, I thought the weird ones would all be in the roughs, City folk, they're supposed to be educated and refined, not bleeding zealots.
Yeah.
But I don't know. There's an interesting idea there because there is part of the duality, the whole urban versus rural thing that's going on between the roughs and the city folk, and that's the thing that's interesting is the world that Wayne and Wax have walked through. They walked the real city.
Yes.
Or the real roughs.
Yes.
Because these are city folks, even though they view themselves as we're the outsiders,
We're on the fringe, kind of,
Yeah, and it's like, no, you're like Bilmine is now almost as big as Ellendale, and
you're not from the roughs. You're from suburbia.
Yeah.
Yep, suburbia.
It's just kind of an interesting thing that everyone else is kind of posing, whereas these two actually walk in both those worlds.
Well, and that's kind of been, again, a theme for them. I mean, the comparison with Allomancer Jack and all that. Allomancer Jack is performative. He wants to be what they just naturally are. And Wax doesn't. I mean, yes, Wax has an air of theatricality about him. The whole "I'm a roughsman" when he's in the city, and "I'm a cityman" when he's in the roughs. But he just sort of does things. Other people see what he does and they say, "Ooh, I want to be like that." He's not trying to be like anything. He just sees what needs to be done and he does it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's that air of theatricality that Kaladin also has, where
honestly most of Brandon's protagonists.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing is that characters like the two that always get compared, Wayne and Lopin, like they have an air of theatricality, but it's an air like they're an actual showman about it. They're trying to do it, whereas Kaladin and Wax, they just are these people that stand dramatically and pose, and it's not because they're trying to be people of legend. They just are.
They're not trying to stand dramatically. They're just standing, and it happens to be dramatic.
If the wind hits it just right, and the background light and everything. Just right
to be fair, I think Wax has a little bit of extra help from Sazed.
Oh,
He's just like, I'm gonna. This is my sword. I need to make it shiny.
I gotta make it shiny and pretty and flow. Be great.
I mean, to quote Adolin, you can never have enough swords.
Yeah, it's true.
Sorry, I just pictured Adolin as Fighter from 8-Bit Theater.
Sword chucks, yo.
Oh man, that takes me back right there.
Yep.
I feel old.
Well,
okay.
There are going to be people who are listening to us right now who were born after 8-Bit Theater.
Oh, no.
Anyway,
no, not okay. Not okay.
It's like the time Bill and I had a roommate who said to us, and it blew our minds. He's like, "No, I was born after Aladdin came out," and we didn't like that sentence one bit.
I aged about 20 years in one moment.
Ooh.
Now that's nowhere near as insane as it sounded to us back when he lived with us.
That's still insane.
It's true. All right. So they get to the point where they're now looking at the device and trying to figure out a solution. And, there's like, we have 20 minutes to solve it. So, boom, we now have a timer. They find out they can't turn it around at all. And they realize this isn't a ship, it's a missile.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a good time.
It's a kamikaze ship.
Yeah, so we get to this.
It's the world's slowest missile.
Yeah. Wayne scrambled too, following tripping on bodies. Wait, you said that if we tried, we'd almost certainly blow the thing, talking about defusing the bomb. Do you have a better idea? Maybe, Wayne said, halting beside the railing, miscoursing past like a river in the sky. Wax froze, turning back to him. Did Wayne have a better idea? And I love the pause there, because Wax is someone who he knows who Wayne is, but he also knows that Wayne is a better and much more capable man than he likes to let on. And so most people would be like, okay, whatever. He actually says, does he?
Well, a lot of people look at Wayne and they say, oh, Wayne, he misses things. He doesn't see things. And it's not that. Wayne sees things differently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He sees it. He just interprets it different. So yeah.
Yeah. There's also a subtle, cool narrative thing that happens up until this point. Even though obviously everything is third person limited with the way Brandon writes it, it's kind of being told from Wax's point of view, and from that line, it actually then sort of flips to Wayne's point of view, but there's no actual like break that he normally does, because it's a subtle thing. It's more like how a framing of a camera, as opposed to Brandon really trying to,
jar you
show
out of
you.
it, yeah.
You're talking about specifically in this scene, because I remember this book just feeling like this feels like the book is from Wayne's perspective, because he had so many viewpoints.
Yeah, it's a subtle thing, because it's about who's sort of the focus at the moment, as opposed, because you can see thoughts that are going through people's heads, and that's sort of how I sort of determine who the focus is. And here's where because did Wayne have a better idea? Actually, he did. And then it goes into Wayne's head about his whole thing. He looked out at the ocean and realized something. The ship here, well, this was a lot like a lone mesa. It fit way better than the Shaw had. Yes, a solitary mesa in the middle of the flatlands, and it needed to gobble up the hero.
So this little bit here, I saw coming from the beginning of the book, but the way that Brandon delivered it was amazing. Like the instant Wayne started making the comparisons to the story, I was just like, oh no. What? Because he kept saying that Wax is the hero, Wax is here, Wax, and I'm just like, oh no, Wayne's going to be the hero and he's going to die. Like I was just like, oh no, Wayne's gone. And like I saw it coming, but Brandon laid it out so well that I still appreciated the artistry that he put into it.
Yes,
Yeah.
I didn't pick that up until like I didn't know that there were these little hints of lines like this one until now, and I'm like, man, I read this too fast, which is hard because when I get into the story, I just want to read, and so.
Well, except technically you're the one reading it correctly because that is what Brandon wants to like. That's when he wants people to realize it right before the twist.
Yes.
Yeah. See, I didn't realize it until even a little bit later. It's like rereading it now is when I'm like, oh, that's when that hint got dropped. And it
because like I think I noticed when Wax first got to the city and Wayne was like, there he is, the hero had arrived or something like that. And then Wayne started making these different comparisons, and I'm just like, it's the story his mom told him. It's the story his mom told him.
No, well, but Brandon likes to talk about surprising but inevitable. I felt this book, and I wonder if it even makes sense, but it makes sense to me. This was more inevitable but surprising. Like the entire time, I felt the same way, where I knew where it was going, but it didn't take us there the way I thought it didn't
take a straight path.
Yeah. And I don't know, I liked it.
I did too.
Okay, I should really say this part with Wayne is the part I saw. Everything that went on with Marcy and the Ghost Bloods did not see at all. That
was out of nowhere. Yeah, that was.
Yeah, no, I did not call Shy.
You weren't expecting Shy turning into an Elantrian and a guy showing up in an Amberite golem.
You know? Yeah, that's
no,
not so much.
Like if I could hold up my bingo card here, didn't have it on the bingo card.
And like the random Elantrian, I can't remember their name, who like shows up too, who's also one of the Ghost Bloods, and then
one of the daughters of Kai-Ein.
Yeah.
Or the daughter of Kai-Ein.
Oh yeah,
it's two sons, right?
Yes. No,
code names are stupid, is what she
two
calls
sons
them.
and a daughter.
Yeah.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, because they're the twins, and then the one that's some sort of neurodivergent.
Yeah.
That it turns out to be an Elantrian.
Yeah.
K-Ice.
Yes, that's what it is. K-Ice. Because all their names are great. All right. Code names are stupid. Elantrian names are stupid. Anyway.
K-Ice sounds like a Korean pop star name.
Kind of does, actually, now that you say it. Someone write that down. All right. Let's see. Where was I? I got distracted with wonderful conversation.
So it needed to gobble up the hero. Is where you kind of were.
Yeah. Okay, so Wayne's coming up with the plan. What if we use water to blow these things up, not the way they intended it? Because that's an explosion, but not as big an explosion as a Trellium harmonium interaction. And so they're coming up with it. And let's see. Where was it? Wait, Harmony said to them. This could work. I have a way. Wax, I gave you a vial with a red cork. I have it, Wax said, fishing in his sheath of metal vials. He frowned and came out with a handkerchief. Fairly used, Wayne said. Wayne grinned and handed Wax his rifle, then fished in his pocket. I thought it needed to be somewhere safe, so I made a nice little trade. Harmony, Wax said. If you can make this work, I just love Harmony. The pause, Wax said, and I love the idea that he wrote it that way so that we don't know if he's swearing right there or because he's annoyed with Wayne, or is he dressing Harmony. Like there's just enough of a beat where it's like, is he swear? Okay. Because I love them taking God's name in vain when you're talking to God. There's something hilarious about that. I don't know. It's something that could only really happen in fantasy.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a fun thing to play with. But yeah, let's see. Where was I? Moving forward. I'd figured out that part. I just needed to know if the idea worked, and I needed to confirm one other thing, which is, Wax said, that the plan doesn't need you, mate, Wayne said, and he pushed, shoving Wax via the barrel of the rifle he was holding, outward off the ship and through the mists. Wayne felt real proud of that push. He did it like Wax did, crouching down first to give it a little lift. His friend gave him a look of outrage and maybe regret as he vanished into the misty darkness over the waters. Land safely, mate, Wayne whispered, and survive.
And the thing is, Wayne had to take Wax by surprise with this.
Because he
if
wouldn't
Wax
have
had,
let him.
well, if Wax had known, he would have increased his weight.
Yep.
And
it doesn't work. And so it's just it's such a great moment because he doesn't get to really tell him goodbye and thank you and the things you normally want to cinematically say.
I mean, they did get the scene where Wax found the rough spear or whatever, and so they kind of had that moment.
But yeah, let's see. Where was I? All right. He tipped his hat, then pulled out the red corked vial. What the hell is this anyway? Earlier in the week, you all conducted a test, Harmony said, splitting harmonium. Same test our enemies have done 100 or more times. I love him writing in the accent. It's just, and it's like, yes, but this one was different. I have no idea what happened, but Wax did something different from everyone else trying this because he didn't merely blow up the room. He created something amazing. I love that not even Sazed is sure what it was that Wax did that was different.
Mm-hmm. Well,
it
for a few reasons,
the whole thing.
I mean,
go ahead.
Because Sazed was kind of blocked at that point. And also, this is just the sort of thing that, like, Sazed, as omniscient as he is, there are still mysteries to him.
Yeah. Well, and he tries to say so often, it's like, I'm not omniscient. I'm not really God.
Mm-hmm.
He tries to hammer these things home.
Yeah.
He's immortal with just some really incredible resources.
Well, I mean, and they even call that out in the tenets of Pantheism.
Yeah.
Because he tells them, "Don't worship me." He actively tells them this.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I love that because I think that's like one of the first conversations between Steris and Wax, and because he's like, so you follow the path, and he's like, yeah, and she's like, I don't really understand it, and it's like, it's complicated. She's like, that's something a lot of Pathians tend to say. I love it. Let's see. So they're looking it over, and I just love the weight of what is said here. That, Harmony said, is the faintest bit of Lerasium, Wayne. A metal from legend. A metal found by Vin at the Well of Ascension and used to make Ellen Venture a Mistborn. A metal that hasn't existed for centuries and, as far as I know, hasn't been made in millennia. Drink that vial and you'll be a Mistborn, able to use all the metals. There's a little of each one in there. There's just because occasionally we get those weight of the centuries from Sazed, and he doesn't bust it out often, but he just gets to start name dropping legend after legend of people he knew intimately, maybe the most intimately, because frankly, even Kelsier was still a bit of an enigma even to Sazed. But Vin and Ellen, he was their marriage counselor. He was their their political advisor.
I mean, he was Vin's bodyguard.
Yeah, Vin's her mentor,
and her tutor, and everything else.
Yeah. Because like as much as Kelsier was her literal mentor in how to fight and stuff, he was her mentor in philosophy and helped her sort of figure out who she wanted to be, balancing the stuff with Valette, with the stuff she was learning from Kelsier, with her street rat days and figuring out who she was.
And they'd saved each other's lives countless times. There's a bond that's forged there that
Yeah.
I don't know who said it, but it's something like love is something you go through with someone else. Which is just far more insightful than I ever would come up with my own. Wish I could remember who said it. That'd be a cool thing to know. Here we go. Why didn't you have Wax drink it earlier? I don't want to reveal this happened, as I don't know why or how. I don't know what he did. Besides, he might have already had a dose inhaled during the explosion. Huh, that explained a few things. Wayne knocked back the vial, and then he waited. Nothing happened. That's anticlimactic, he muttered. You have to burn Lerasium, Wayne. Oh, right. Just...
Still got that Wayne flair to it, where he just...
Wayne wanted a Popeye eating spinach animation.
Yeah.
But nope.
But this also makes sense because it goes back to the whole thing where how long did Wax hold the coin before he realized it was a metal mind? It's you don't feel the reserve of power there until
intent.
You know it.
That's a brilliant thing that Brandon's added to it. It's also very convenient.
Yes.
That
but that's what makes it brilliant.
That the magic only works with intent, and so it's just like it can be there and you just don't know it.
Yeah, the only one I think that we really have seen where you know it no matter what is breath.
It's very visual.
But that's the only one I can think of off the top of my head.
I mean, there's a little bit of latency. There's a little bit of latency with Stormlight.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true, because Kaladin was accidentally inhaling it. There was intent, but the intent was more a vague survival
exactly
thing.
And so like I said, it was a latent burning.
Yeah.
But
this is where Brandon's sort of
and Vin did the same thing with her luck.
Yeah she could feel the reserve, but she didn't know what it was. But this is where I just really like Brandon's writing style, this minimalist, what's it called? The window pane style, some people call it. Where you're just trying to frame it, you're not trying to color it. Where he just said, because how do you describe getting brand new powers? And this is just, I don't know, I like how he describes it. He searched and found a new metal reserved. Neat. He reached out and burned it. A flash of light, a fire in his veins, a feeling like a kick to the face. Damn.
What was that, 10? I'm trying to remember.
No, I think it's the Lerasium.
He'd bring the Lerasium.
Sorry, I was thinking this was after he burned the Lerasium. Right.
I think this was the
Lerasium itself. Makes sense.
Yeah. And then how does this help? He asked. You can now burn duralumin. And then he has to explain this works on all metal. Which this is one of the interactions we have been curious about ever since we knew about speed bubbles. I mean, as soon as you know of a power, the first thing you ask is, can you what would happen if you duralumin burst or nitro burst it? And there's been a few that we hadn't gotten to see. Because at that point we had seen pewter, because that's when Vin vaporized a guy's head.
We've seen adium, because that's what
seen adium.
That's what Ellen did.
Yeah. At the very end, we'd seen tin, because Vin accidentally did that to herself.
We've seen pewter.
We'd seen pewter. We had seen steel pushing, because that's when she vivisected a certain tool who was a father-in-law.
And by just assumption, iron pulling is very similar to steel pushing, just in opposite directions.
Yeah, similar. Probably a much worse idea though. Just pull something with that force towards you.
Can you duralumin burst Lerasium?
People have asked, and he's Ralphoed it, and I think it's because he's like, I don't know, what do you want from me?
I'm just thinking a duralumin gnat who's given Lerasium is just like, no, I am now the most powerful. I am not a gnat anymore.
Maybe it makes you a Mistborn, like on par with the Lord Ruler. Maybe.
I mean, that's what pure Lerasium does.
Yeah, but I don't know. Like, I'm trying to think of a thing. Because the Lord Ruler was a bit more even than.
Because he
But
had
I'm
all the
thinking
Furukumi too.
maybe you need less, like, because Wax isn't super powerful as a Mistborn,
Yeah.
even though he breathed in some Thracium vapor.
It turns out Leracium is the good stuff.
I mean, it's concentrated
Godhood?
preservation.
Yeah. All right. Wayne paused, the ship rocking, then whistled softly, understanding. You mean, how much Bendaloy do you have left? He fished a pouch out of his pocket. Maybe enough to. Wayne fished another pouch out of his other pocket. Okay, and the pouch in his sock. Uncomfortable, but handy. Wayne, how many pouches do you have? 17, he said. I'm a fancy rich guy now. Will that be enough? Oh, Wayne. Yes, I think it will.
The fact that it's just like taking the trope of like the pulling out the more and more and more weapons, but it's just pouch after pouch after pouch of Bendaloy, and you're like, yep, that tracks with Wayne. That he would always want to make sure he has more just around, especially if he's got the money to buy it.
If you've ever seen Oscar, the scene where he's taking all the weapons from his friend, it's like disarming Germany.
Well, but it makes a lot of sense. The number of times Wayne has been like kidnapped or, knocked out, he would want to secret Bendaloy wherever he can.
Yeah.
And just in case he ever gets, captured again, it's like, okay, we checked all his pockets. Did you check his sock?
Did you check that? Did you check everything?
Well, I wouldn't put it past Wayne to have swallowed an aluminum vial of Bendaloy that he could then regurgitate it.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, he definitely would. And so, I don't know. I like, once again, he even God wasn't aware of how much Bendaloy he had on him.
And I love his response is basically, that'll do, Wayne. That'll do.
It's like, yep, you got it.
But no, there's something that's always struck me as interesting. I think I've mentioned it before. Because I may have mentioned it before. My degree's in physics. And all you have to learn the history of physics to learn, when did we learn this? And like every early rule of physics were learned by various lords in usually England. And it's like, okay, why are they all lords? And it's like, well, they're the ones who had the time, because everyone else is a peasant and has to work all day. So only
that and the lords would often be patrons for scholars, and then take credit for the things that their scholars discovered, because as the patron they claimed right to it.
Yeah, but specifically with the physics and chemists, usually they were actually the ones like doing the research and leading the team. Usually because the people they've patroned, they literally work for them.
Yeah.
But they're in the trenches doing it because this is their passion.
I mean, we see it in the Stormlight Archive with Navani.
Yeah, exactly. And Navani is the best example of that style. And so, but the interesting thing is like, why has no one else discovered this? It's like, well, we know Bendaloy is very, very expensive. So how did Wayne get this much? Well, he had to stop an entire, train robbery and get a massive, massive thing. Then on top of it, he's been bumming stuff off of Wax the entire time. So his funds go a lot further.
Plus, again, we know that Wayne is a very wealthy man at this point. He's made investments and he invested in Tesla when he was
he invested in Tesla, but not
like
car company.
Nikolai Tesla.
Yeah.
And literally, that's like the analog.
That's what I was trying to say. Yeah. I only made the connection after I'd said it. So,
but no, it's one of these things where, and then like he's accidentally going to invent like their version of Major League Baseball. It looks like, and it's just okay, this is an interesting side thing. So we never got from Brandon exactly what is the resonance of Wayne's two powers.
Because Bendaloy and healing?
Yeah, because with Wax, we see the resonance, with his weird bubble that he gets to put around himself that no one else really can do quite the same way. And some people have theorized that Wayne's resonance is something to the effect of being lucky. Like not in a
It activates fortune.
yeah, in some weird way that this like the compressing of time and the healing does some weird thing where because he does have these weird he's trying to squander money. He's doing it actively and failing.
Mm-hmm. It's like
Although
Brewster's Millions.
my personal favorite, like I don't buy into the theory personally, but my personal favorite theory is the fact that Wayne is actually terrible at investing. And that's why he's so good at investing, because he's doing the George Costanza. He's trying to do the opposite of what he thinks is smart.
Uh-huh.
Mm.
And because he's terrible with money, the opposite of what he thinks is smart is actually brilliant.
Mm-hmm. Well, and he also he tries to give money away and people see it and they're like, oh, I need to repay this because this is very generous. He's just like, no, stop it.
He's trying to
Well,
just get rid of it.
That's his entire relationship with his accountants,
Mm-hmm.
where they're like, oh my god, no, this was too brilliant. And so here's your things. He's like, gosh, dang it.
I made more money. I didn't want to.
Yeah.
Well, and then on top of it, even if someone was as rich as Wayne, had the same powers as Wayne, Wayne's the only one throwing himself into combat as much to get the practice that he needs to do all the shaping. And then on top of it, if I remember correctly, at the beginning of the book, wasn't Marcy like telling him, hey, are you practicing with your bend alloy? Like, we got you that extra bend alloy so that you could do that and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
She might
Wasn't
have
there
been,
something like that?
I feel like there was some discussion of it, maybe.
Because she was always asking, like, do you need any more? Like, because we subsidize it because no one knows how rich he is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and we also, the way that Steris is, she's just like, okay, we got to make sure everybody's
supplied
prepared.
With everything they need. Yeah.
And she over preps, and Wayne sees stuff that he can use, and he picks it up and he takes it, and so he starts to over prep and
yeah. Well, and on top of it, it's to that point because Steris does have like extra vials for both of them.
I just realized Steris rubbed off on him.
Mm-hmm.
She did. Yep.
Because she had all sorts of extra contingencies, and in the end, Wayne, even though he kept, ragging on Steris, she rubbed off on him.
Mm-hmm.
I think notice the last thing he tells, like when we get there, who does he want to rub it into? It's Steris. Mm-hmm. He's been paying, like, their relationship is very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It's 180,
Well, it's one of those things where, they
because he's so mean to her in the second book.
Oh,
yes,
he is.
But then it develops into a genuine affection.
Mm-hmm.
A very different affection because both of them are very unusual people. But it's so genuine and just so perfect for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, the thing that's interesting about Wayne, for someone who is into impersonating other people and stealing, he's a very genuine person himself. Steris's problem is how ingenuine she is because she's so worried about trying to
perfect
put on the right that she's constantly thinking things, overthinking things, and so she appears false, and that's something he's a good read of falseness, and it's why he doesn't trust her, is because everything feels fake. Now he's misreading what the falseness is because he's reading it as she's
deceitful,
taking advantage of Wax, and what it really is she's just really socially
trying
awkward
not to
she's
mess up.
Compensating.
Yeah.
And so it's a very interesting because the two of them are both very fascinating people whose strengths and weaknesses lined up perfectly for them to hate each other.
Mm-hmm.
But instead, through both Marcy and
Wax,
at
first they did.
Yeah. Through Marcy and Wax, they're able to form a bond. I don't think it was ever really friendship, just from I can read from it, but it's respect.
Particularly with Wax, I think, because they both realized that the other gives him something that they can't. And helps him and builds him in a way that they have never been able to understood how to.
And they both genuinely want to help Wax. So I
Yes.
think it's kind of Wayne's good as a partner for that, and Wayne can see that she's good for him romantically and relationship wise. So
like Wayne's relationship with Marcy, I feel like doesn't really develop until the third and fourth books. But but like with Steris, I think it's like so I don't think that Wayne's and Steris's relationship is based much on Marcy. Wayne has his own separate relationship with Marcy. But I think his relationship with Steris centers around Wax.
Yeah.
Because both of them adore Wax. And they recognize that in each other to the point where they're like, okay, if they recognize how good he is when so many people have misunderstood him or attacked him, there is something very genuinely good in them.
Yeah. That's the thing I really like about Wax and all of Wayne's friends. They think far higher of him than Wayne feels. And that's something, we'll get to in a second.
I did like the line from Harmony where he's, he finally appears to Wayne, and he says, I knew that I had to bring Wax to Elendil. He's like, it's possible to see future needs. I understood that it'd be good to make this choice, though. One doesn't always see why, even if one is a god. He's like, I thought I only needed Wax. It seems that I was wrong. And it's like, oh, it's just that moment of, yep, you are just the perfect thing to fix this, and you were important too.
I just want to keep that conversation going because it's such a good conversation. It should be Wax, Wayne said. He's the one that fixes messes like this. No, Harmony said. You've practiced all your life with speed bubbles, Wayne. Wax would be brand new at them. You might be the only person in the world who could do this. That's kind of depressing, Wayne said. Really? I'm the best you could do? Ain't you God? Harmony's eyes softened. Wayne, you aren't the best I could do. You're the best there is. And no being, neither God nor mortal, could have wished for more than one such as you.
I love that.
Oh, yeah.
I think this is when I really started crying. Because I don't cry much in books. I sobbed openly for Wayne. And
Same.
I think this is where it started because Wayne has lived with so much self-loathing ever since he slipped. Since he fell down that hole and went too far, killed that girl's father, and he has never ever forgiven himself even a little bit. He has put himself through just penance, just from the moment it happened.
Because that's the earlier in the book where the scene with Renette and
Jaxie,
something like that.
Yeah, Jaxie.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Where they have to sort of Wayne, you're torturing her.
Leave her alone. Yeah.
And he's like, wait, really? He has so internalized his need for suffering that he thought this was what the right path was.
He thought it's what she needed.
Yeah. And it just goes to it shows this how much he's internalized his. I mean, just this line is fascinating. Wayne nodded, then hesitated, looking towards Harmony. Will this earn me forgiveness? Oh, Wayne, Harmony said. You've heard this from Wax. You have to hear it from me too, I think. You can't do this for forgiveness. You need no forgiveness, not anymore. But yeah.
Apparently I lost connection to server.
Uh-oh. Hang on.
Maybe a good time for a break.
Yeah, now would be a good time for a break. We'll see you in a bit.
Sir.
Okay. So I want to discuss something that's an interesting theological thing that's going on here.
Oh boy.
Okay.
The fact that he tells Wayne, you can't do this for forgiveness. You need no forgiveness, not anymore. It interests me because even by Sazed's own religion that's centered around him, Sazed does not have the ability to forgive someone.
To grant absolution.
Yeah, that's not a thing that exists. And so what Sazed is saying here isn't from like a more biblical perspective, like your sins have been forgiven thee.
Mhm.
It's you have done enough. This is not Sazed talking as a god. This is Sazed talking as the guy who studied religions and is telling him, dude, forgive yourself.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is definitely therapist Sazed.
I don't know. It was something that it just struck me as kind of odd because it's just it's a very unique theological situation to find yourself in with a deity who doesn't believe in his own deificness.
Deification.
Yeah.
His own deity.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, it's just because, it doesn't matter which religion you're following on Scadrial, all of them would agree that no, he doesn't have the ability to forgive you of your sins.
Right.
That's not a thing. And it's a very interesting thing that Wayne's hung up on. That am I forgiven? It's like, who gets to forgive in this universe?
Yeah, they don't have the same thing that Christianity does, or I don't know enough about.
To be fair,
Okay.
Sazed kind of became, in a sense, the high priest of every language or every religion.
Yeah.
When he was mortal, and so like if anybody has the ability to do that, it is him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, he's the utmost authority.
Mhm.
But it's just it's an interesting thing. It also just got me down the rabbit hole of I don't think we've spent much time looking at what does survivorism think of Sazed?
Mhm. Well,
Because
you
they would definitely view him in a somewhat positive light, right? Like he's he's
Mhm.
part of Kelsier's crew.
Yeah.
yeah.
But he's not who they worship. It's a very weird question.
I mean, like, not to dive too much into real world theology. I mean, Judaism looks at Christ as a good teacher.
Mhm. And the Quran does the same thing. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
he was a good guy. He was a prophet. And then they cap it there. They don't go the same length.
Because
that
they all
Christianity
go in
does.
different directions based on their dogmas. But it's just I don't know. It's just something that
Yeah.
I'll be very interested whenever we get to Era 3, especially if Sazed furthers this whole splitting thing that's going on, to see how he's viewed. Like, what does pathism look like when Sazed is two people?
Yeah.
Well, and how has the stuff that Autonomy did, like, is it rediscovered? Because like there are offshoots and stuff that disappear, and then people come across them years later and say, "Ooh, there may be something to this," and they pick it up in their own kind of warped version of it.
Yeah. Well, and Sazed's own principles would forbid himself from, like, forget his norm, the inability to do things that he has.
Mhm.
Just his own principles, he wouldn't discourage that.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that was his theology, is he collected all religions.
And wanted to share them with everybody.
Yeah, it's a very, like, and that was one of the most interesting things when it turned out that Sazed was the hero of ages.
Yep.
Was it's just like, and he rises up to be the god of that planet. And yeah, he himself is, I'm trying to think, not polytheistic, but poly-religious.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it. Poly-religious.
Mhm.
He's non-denominational, to be sure.
Yeah.
But then on top of it, like, just the weirdness of Sazed now has a new problem that his own personal morals would say, okay, I can't stop people from having other religions. And it's like, okay, but what about when literally other gods are threatening to destroy your planet? Is it okay then? And you start getting into some pretty complicated moral issues that, I mean, and Era 2, like Era 1 didn't tend to deal with as difficult moral issues because the situation was just so terrible that
It was
it's like
very
just
stark black and white. This is good. This is bad. Yeah.
whatever gets you to the next day is sort of what's going to have to be okay, because, you know, we're talking about the wiping out of an entire planet.
Yeah.
But now things are a lot more gray, and you get things like, is it okay for him to manipulate Wax the way he has? Is it okay to, you know, and you just start going through it. It's like, what's the answer? And I think, like a lot of good media, it doesn't try to tell you what the good thing is. It lets you sit there and
It
think
presents
about
it presents the problem, lets you ruminate upon it.
Yeah, and see how the characters decide to solve it, but not necessarily say it's 100% the right thing.
Well, it's
And
one
I
of the
see-
reasons that Brandon refuses to address what the beyond is and how that works.
Yeah.
Like because he believes there needs to be a level of not knowing.
Because if you know, suddenly there can be objective truth.
It's interesting when you look at that with Sanderson's first law, and talking about his comparison of soft magic systems and hard magic systems and stuff like that. Brandon does recognize the need for a soft magic system, even within the Cosmere, the beyond, and there's other aspects of it. It still is soft magic.
Yeah. You've got the hard magic parts here and here and here and here, but then you have the soft magic kind of is the other stuff.
Yeah. Well, the thing I like it because he always, the thing he would bring up, he brings up, what's the thing that Gandalf actually solves with magic? It's the Balrog. It's the other unexplainable thing.
Yes.
And so it follows his rules because it doesn't solve a problem that you could do through more mundane issues.
He also sets pine cones on fire and throws them at wolves from the treetops. But
that's the Hobbit.
That's
not Lord of the Rings.
But that's not him going overboard, right?
No, not at all. That's just him setting a fire more easily than tinder and
or whatever.
Yeah, and so the concept of the beyond being there, it doesn't solve anything more than the vagueness of what happens to a soul. And so it's perfectly fine that there's some mystery there, that he doesn't explain it, even though we tend to like Brandon explaining things in his magic systems.
But I like that he's kept that.
Same. I 100% agree. All right. Let's see. So anyway, here we go. Because he tells him, you don't need to, you need no forgiveness, not anymore. And he was right. Wayne wasn't doing this for forgiveness or out of shame or out of a need to prove himself. He wasn't the man he had been when Wax pulled him out of his hiding place. He was someone different.
You know what I love?
I love that.
You know what I love is that Harmony basically granted him peace or harmony.
Aww.
He gave him he granted him harmony.
Yeah. Well, then on top of it, like this has a lot of echoes of Dalinar. Just as far as I'm not that same guy.
Yeah.
And
there's a lot of themes of forgiveness and growth and progression.
Yeah, and it's just, I don't know. It's really good writing here. I just like it.
And of course he asked for the hat.
Well, so before that though, Wayne, Harmony asked, do you know who you are? Yeah, I know who I am, Wayne said. I'm the goddamn hero. Sorry. This is where he does have the ability to absolve him.
Are we going to need to put an explicit notice on this episode?
Nah. It's in the book. It's fine. But I just, under the circumstances, Harmony said, smiling, I understand. Like, this is where he can absolve him of that.
It's like that. Yeah, you're cool. You're fine.
We're good. You get one. But yeah, right then, Wayne said, I'm going to need your hat. My hat. Gotta sculpt a speed bubble just right and put everything I have into the push. Burn so much bend alloy in one moment, it practically melts me from the inside. Slow time so much, even electric signals get dull. I don't wear a hat. You're God. Improvise something.
Like,
Make a hat for me.
I need your hat. Make a hat.
Oh, it's like, you're God. Improvise something. Because It actually is kind of an echo of Kelsier and Fuzz, like in Secret History, because it's very much the mortal being like telling God to do something, and the God being like,
But what?
What is happening?
You're being a deity wrong.
Fix it.
There's that line from one of the letters in can't remember which of the books, but I think Words of Radiance. It's like I despite my powers, I found I can be blind, maybe even a little naive. Just this whole thing that you can still surprise these slivers
because
of
they
Adonosian.
are humans, or
at their core,
Shodel, or dragons, or whatever.
Yeah,
or something mortal. They're not infallible.
Aside from the dragons.
But yeah, Harmony paused, then touched Wayne on the head. He felt it start to glow, as if something had settled there. Earrings, too. He felt earrings like a proper terraceman wore. Something he'd maybe always been, just in secret. It wasn't nothing magical, but when he wore someone's hat, he thought he could understand them. And who was better to understand than God himself?
And I like that callback to his history, because there's a lot of looking into Wax as looking at his Terrace half, but Wayne as a Farukamist clearly has Terrace roots as well.
There's a line at the beginning where his he's thinking to himself that his dad was a Terraceman. So he does have Terrace blood, but we don't ever see anything of his dad.
But he never really ruminates on it the way that Wax does, because Wax went and he spent time in. I mean, like, we have flashbacks to his time on the on the Terrace community.
Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna read a little bit here, and just let me go for a little bit, and then I'll tell you when I'm ready to stop. Hold on to your robes, my dear friend. This is going to be unlike anything you've seen before, I think. Which, that's Wayne talking to Harmony
while wearing his hat.
Yes, while wearing his hat, so he mimics him. Anyway. Marcy, like, there's I just love this break because it perfectly encompasses the feeling. Marcy strode towards Blantarch's constabulary offices, Armal and a few of her friends in her wake, though in a dark city content with its own business, ignorant of the crisis. Yet she felt something in the mists. Wax always talked about them in their supernatural way, a way she rarely felt. Tonight, though, they seemed to be holding their breath. Steris froze on the docks. Her workers and constables were still busy doing as she asked, but something felt odd about the moment. She turned towards the waters and looked out across the misty sea. Gripping the little silver spear she wore around her neck, she said a prayer. Aww. I love this because this is the part that is very interesting about the world of Scadrial, that the mists and preservation connects everyone on this planet. I remember in Secret History, as Fuzz is like fading, he sets out that net that sort of lets him touch everything. Like, he's stretching himself as thin as he can to do it. And when Kelsier finally notices it, he's like, he's suddenly realizing, this is what's protecting the planet. And I just think at this moment that it's like everyone suddenly feels that little piece of preservation that's in them and connects them to Harmony. And they all feel the world itself holding its breath.
It's sort of like the moment like before an earthquake, and suddenly the animals recognize that something's about to happen. Things go silent. Things, people react. They don't know what's happening, but something is happening.
Like the hairs go up on the back of your neck type, whole thing.
Yeah, it's so good. I like this little part where it's like suddenly we see the quartet, like, because this has been Wax and Wayne, but we get this little piece to the other two that have had, because they've done their part in the story, but we just get this little piece of them. Suddenly the moment is with them too. And I love it. It's so good. Okay, I gotta read this part. I love it. Most allomancers with powers couldn't change the shape of a bubble, but Bendalloy was so expensive, people couldn't really afford to practice. He could. He'd probably done this more than any person alive. In that moment, He made a bubble that contained the 3-barrel devices, but had a hole to exclude the device on the wall that coordinated the explosions. Then he burned duralumin and pushed. People often didn't refer to speed bubbles and slowness bubbles as pushing and pulling, like they talked about steel pushes and iron pulls. But it was the same. What Wayne did was pushing on reality itself, distorting it, shoving it inward, warping it. Today, he pushed harder than any person in history. He pushed like a god on account of wearing Sazed's own hat, on account of that strange metal, and on account of Wayne being the hero. Time squeezed in around him and compressed like coal being made into rust and diamond. Further and further, as the whole damn stomach full of Bendaloy was burned in an instant. God himself froze, standing motionless. The bubble crystallized into a visible sphere. Lights that had been blinking halted half on. Something funny even happened to his eyesight, everything going all strange until he took another vial of Harmony's metal and burned steel to see that way instead. This is the mechanics part that I do always love.
Yeah.
But one, because, I don't think of it as pushing and pulling. And it's always, until this moment, I hadn't really known how to think about the speed bubbles, but I love him as like pushing on reality itself, like compressing time into this little tiny space.
Yeah.
And I love with duralumin, it's not a bubble anymore, it's a crystal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like, it is a literal frozen moment in time. I love that little thing. And I love that suddenly you can't see right, because the light that normally goes through kind of unaffected. Because we do know things redshift, and like to stop redshifting and blue shifting, Brandon hand waves it, says, light doesn't
Magic.
really affect it.
A wizard did it.
But at this point, it's so much is going on because it's slowing down electrical signals, which electrical signals move at the speed of light. It's the same thing. The light itself goes wonky, so he can't view it with light. He has to use magic to view things properly. Which, just once again, Brandon's attention to detail. He sits there and thinks, what would happen?
Yeah.
At the end of it, it says all became red light and blossoms of fire. Is that just referring to the explosion, or is it the red shift too?
It could be. The problem is we're probably never going to get another person doing something like this, so we can't do some A/B comparisons.
We don't know that. I mean, again, we're going into we're going to have a space opera. Era.
I'm guessing it won't happen like this.
No, never not
guess.
like this.
But
because again, we're not going to have a character who sees things the way that Wayne does.
Yeah.
But here we go. He let out a breath and dropped the canteen. He had been gobbled up. It was true. But when that happened, you strangled the monster from inside. His crystalline speed bubble shattered, and all became red light and a blossom of fire. Like, it's so good. Now, we'd be remiss to not check in on Wax, who realizes what happened, and then, he's having that moment of, of loss of his friend, and then Hoyd shows up.
Oh, it was brilliant.
Courage
It was
for you,
brilliant.
Yes.
Because he's so nonchalant about it.
Yeah. Best taxi cab ever.
Yep.
Just like everyone else is like, there's never a taxi cab and you need it. Hoyd is the opposite. He's always there when you need a ride.
Yep.
Well, it's like a scene where some guy like finds himself stranded out in the middle of the desert, and he's just sitting here thinking, what am I going to do? And then suddenly a stagecoach pulls up. It's just like you're out in a place where no one should be, where no one has any reason to be. And there's someone there to pick you up.
Yep.
So then we jump to Steris, another quick one where she's just, she's now finally had the city is safe, comes off her, and now she's just worried about Wax.
Starts with the shockwave.
Yeah. But I think we all know where we want to go. Floating high above Scadrial and floated someplace high. Was that the planet itself beneath him? It was a sphere, as everyone said. He'd always hoped maybe it would be like donut shaped or something to throw the smart folks for a loop.
I love the idea of a toroidal scadrial.
Oh man,
Toroidrial.
Nice.
is that what donut shaped is?
Toroid.
Yeah,
Toroid.
Learn something.
It's
new
very
every day.
important for magnetic containment.
Oh, that's why it's always shaped that way with Tesla stuff.
Exactly.
It's also kind of what an arc reactor looks like. The big
There's
one.
a reason for that.
Yeah, I figured,
Yeah. So a figure hovered next to him, vast, his robes like the infinite colors of creation. His essence seemed to expand into the darkness of space itself, but at its core, he had the appearance of a bald, kindly terraceman. Hey, God, how's creation, time and space, reality, things. Good, because of you. Now wait, I ain't gonna be a ghost, am I? No. You were invested before you died, so you will persist a short time, but you will soon join the beyond. Oh, good. I just love this. Like, you don't find that idea concerning? Hell no. I already gone and died. That was the part I was worried it would hurt. It's so big. Like,
he's looking
at
at the Earth, or the planet with Scadrial, like, that's big.
What's interesting is the fact that both Wax and Wayne have gotten to take this walk with God.
Yep.
And it's very interesting because they get to see the influence of autonomy retreating, and Wayne can feel the would have gotten away with it too if it hadn't been for you meddling swords.
Yeah.
I still like the idea that someone else promoted that Wax is the sword, but Wayne is the shield, and in this, and he fulfills that in this scene.
Yeah.
Like, he literally is a shield. He diffuses it all, and stands in between Scadrial and this explosion.
Kind of makes me think of in the MCU how Steve Rogers jumps on the grenade, being the buffer in between.
Yeah, making the sacrifice play. Let's see. So he sees it leave, and then Wayne's like, I saved the whole damn world. I'm probably the best constable who ever Rusting lived.
He's so focused on that. Like, look how awesome I was. This is great.
Wax ain't never saved the whole world, and most of the others in the Octant Constabulary, they couldn't save a coupon for free beer even if I gave it to them. Stupid Coundra Giraffe Man. Wayne, the best conner in the whole damn world. Ha! Eat that, Reddy. Eat it with hot sauce and cry.
It's funny. I've never really thought of it this way before, and this is probably going to come out completely wrong, not the way I mean it. Wayne's personality is very much that of a dog. Like, because he's always going to Wax. He's basically saying, I did good, right? And he wants that validation, and it's basically he's saying, tell me I'm a good boy. Like, he's loyal. Like and when I say like a dog, I'm talking about like the
good qualities.
Stereotypical, what people think of. This is who a dog is at heart. The popularized image of a dog.
A very good boy. Yep.
Because Wayne is Wax's faithful companion. He's always there. He's doing everything he can. And it's just like, and I wonder if, like, in some ways, I think that's why his death hit a lot of people, because it is just sort of the whole concept of the loyal companion going over the Rainbow Bridge.
Yeah. The little brother. Like, it's
Tian, yeah.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not thinking of him as, he's a mere beast. I'm just like, there are some people who are very dog-like in personality. And there are people who are cat-like in personality. And I just see Wayne is this happy, bubbly, not quite sure what's going on, but I just want to be a part of it and I want to help.
Yeah.
I think it's a good comparison.
So,
before you go, Harmony said, is there anything you would like to know? I'm not truly omniscient, but my knowledge far surpasses that of mortals. Some have a final question for me before they go. Have you such a request, Wayne? Huh. Any question. That was a hard one. He pondered a moment. So, before she left, Milan told me I was the best lay she ever had, and I was wondering, Wayne, God interrupted. What is it that Renette always says to you? Try dodging this, the other thing. Don't ruin the moment by being all skeevy. Yes, that one. I love the idea. Like, he's just going on. I love the idea of Sazed just standing there, his hands in his robes, just completely just moving with it. What is it Renette always says? Try to dodge this, the other one. Just, completely patient and indulging him.
Because he knows Wayne.
Yeah.
And he also knows Wayne's heart.
Yeah.
And he's not in a huge rush or anything like that. It's kind of like...
But again, Wayne is asking, was I a good boy?
He was.
Yeah.
In a way that we don't need
in a very different way.
Yeah. Now, someone did ask Brandon about that in Milan.
Oh, no.
And the thing he said that was kind of interesting was that it wasn't as big a compliment as Wayne thinks it is. Basically, Milan hasn't had as many partners as you would think over the years because,
Chandra.
For a long time, Chandra weren't doing things like that.
Yeah.
It's still a compliment. It's just not as big a compliment as Wayne thinks it is.
But we'll let Wayne have that moment.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Don't take it from him. Come on. He just died a hero.
Yeah.
But no. So that, he's like, okay, you can't trick me into asking about my friends. I know you're going to take care of them. And he said, good. Then tell me this, God. Was that the biggest damn explosion a person ever made? Harmony raised an eyebrow. That's your last question? Your final request of God before you pass in the eternity? Hell yes. Figured now that I'm dead, I'm going to get all the other answers soon. And you ain't going to trick me into asking a useless question. So tell me, was it? Harmony smiled. Ah, Wayne, I suppose that most other things that could rival it, like the detonations of the ash mounts, would be categorized as acts of God. Therefore, I declare that it is. Yes, Wayne, you exploded yourself in the biggest damn explosion a person ever made in the history of our planet. And then Wayne's response, make sure Steris knows.
She's always complaining about my exploding things. This time I saved her hide by doing it. Plus, I made the explosion smaller. And he's like, and I made it smaller. That's going to break her brain.
I love that because I still feel there's two reasons make Steris know. One, he wants to let her know that, yes, I blew things up and I did it and it saved the world. Just a final told you so. But also, if you want it on the record that it was the biggest
tell it to
explosion,
Steris, yeah.
She will write it down. It will be in a record. And so, I don't know. And then I'm just going to finish the rest of this out.
And he wants to have done the best.
Yeah.
He made the bestest explosion there ever was.
But yeah, I'm just going to finish this out because it's just so beautiful. He felt himself really going now, so he held out a hand to God, who, smiling, shook it. I knew you'd glow, Wayne said with a wink. With that, Wayne stretched into another place, into another time. He stretched into the wind and into the stars and all endless things.
That, in my opinion, was the perfect send-off for Wayne.
It hits harder when somebody says it out loud compared to me just reading it.
I know. It's so good. Man, it's too bad Brandon is a very good writer.
Again, I wept openly at that line.
No, and
laughed at the same time.
Yes. It's one of those things. It's the perfect send-off for Wayne, because that is how Wayne would want to go.
Mm-hmm.
He'd want to have some levity. He doesn't want to take things too seriously.
He'd want to be the hero, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But it's also like we've talked about Brandon's writing style. And there's been some debate on this. And I think scenes like this really show that Brandon can do some really beautiful writing when he wants to. But what I like about it, it's completely in character for Wayne to be thinking that line as he goes. Because one, as people tend to pass, you do tend to ruminate on when you're younger. Two, he, from his perspective, believes he's going to be seeing his mother again. So he would naturally drift.
It's his last memory of her.
Yeah. He would drift towards that as he drifts towards the beyond. And so Brandon's able to make a wonderfully written and like just beautiful send-off whilst keeping it completely in the character's frame of reference. And you're not seeing enough Brandon at that moment. You're seeing Wayne.
Mhm.
And to me, that's like just perfect writing
Yeah.
right there.
No, I agree. It's beautiful.
Yeah. The
I don't know
symmetry
how
is
you could
nice.
read that and not cry. I was like, I ended this book because, you know, I get my books read to me like a proper Vorin man. I was driving and just, you know, because it's just like, okay, we're at the last bit. And so get in the car, just drive and listen. And I'm just ugly crying on I-15. And I loved it. I love the idea of someone driving by and just seeing that being like, is he okay?
Did he just get broken up with? What happened?
I think Brandon's done that to several people with audiobooks over the years.
Yeah. I can't remember where I was. I was listening to Oathbringer back when I was working, and just like I got some stuff and I'm like, I can't listen to this anymore. Oh no. Like I had to like take a break early because I'm like, I can't do this. This is, people are going to think I'm an emotional
Well,
wreck,
it's
and I am.
It's like it wasn't Brandon, but there was a song that my sister sent me in a text right before we started this episode, and it just hit me right in the I miss my dad feels.
Oh.
And I had to stop listening to it. I was like, I gotta do a podcast now, and I'm already a wreck.
Well, I don't.
Well, at
need
least we
this.
weren't covering something sad for the podcast today.
Oh man.
Hmm.
No, I thought
No,
that was a wonderful send off for Wayne.
Yeah. I've said, as much as Elantris isn't my favorite book, I think Elantris has the best opening to all of Brandon's books, like the opening line.
Oh yeah, it's a
I think
killer
this
line.
book is the best. And I mean, obviously there's more to the
epilogues,
book
yeah.
after this, but this is the end of the story itself. And it's like the perfect ending line.
Yeah, Wayne's story ended beautifully.
So good. Well, and especially when you like you go to the very end, like the final epilogue, is they're all
At the
looking
statue.
at Wayne's. Yeah, they're looking at Wayne's statue, and we now know, you know, that there's going to be like holidays and stuff, and they're going to change his hat, and it's like, yes,
And change the
perfect.
saying or whatever on there too.
Yeah, though they better. Well, I just love that Steris looks and it's like gives like a side eye, and he's like, specifically said he wanted it on there.
Yeah.
But no, but the line that Wayne says that is on there, it's like, you're meant to be helping people.
I love it.
Yeah. And it's because that is what it is. And the actual final line of the book, it's, you know, Wax trying to figure out who he is because he's had those identity problems because he's been manipulated by so many things and people. And so he doesn't know what decisions are his. And Harmony sends him a message letting him know, it's like, I won't be doing this to, you know, and I'm
your
sorry.
life is your own.
Yeah, and I'm sorry for my part in making you think it wasn't, you know, and apologizes. And so he's ruminating on that. And he just says, Father, lawman, senator, he could be all three and more, so long as he was helping people.
It's just great.
And it's just because in the end, this is Wayne's story. It's kind of interesting. It doesn't feel like that until you realize it is. But isn't that kind of like you go to Mistborn, the heroic sacrifice is the constant between the two eras.
Yeah.
And who the hero is the big surprise in both things.
I didn't think about that.
Which I don't know how Brandon's going to top this for Era 3, because now we're really on the, okay, who's actually the
We're
hero
in
of
the
this
know.
story?
Well, the thing is, this series wasn't supposed to exist.
Yeah.
This was supposed to just be like a little one-shot whatever thing.
At first, it wasn't anything. Then it was a short story. Then it was a one-shot book. And then it expanded into all of this.
It expanded into, you know, I'm done writing to the assignment and the gloves are off.
I'm gonna have some fun.
It's now the centerpiece of, yeah, everything's gonna be touching each other now. We're getting your chocolate and the peanut butter all over the place.
I'll resist.
I'm really hoping. Like I know this is sort of a weird hope, but it's something that somebody mentioned. And if Brandon does end up writing his cyberpunk trilogy, there will be 16 books in the series.
Mm-hmm.
It's too perfect. It's too perfect. So we would have the five eras, and there would be 4 books in era 2.
Man.
The other one that you could do is you could do multiple secret histories.
Mm-hmm. No, but I want the main series to be these. Because
Yeah.
and Brandon's talked about a cyberpunk era, and I'm just like, I love the idea of that. I want it.
Yeah.
So
And it's the 80s next, right?
Yes, the spy
Mhm.
Cold War
Spy,
era.
Cold War thing.
yep, it'll be interesting.
I mean,
It'll be
there's
very, very interesting.
there's all sorts of plot threads you can do, and
Yeah.
the thing that'll make it very interesting is if things are going the way that we think they are.
Mhm.
It seems things are going to speed up a little bit. That there's going to be less time between this era 3 than there was between
Mhm.
2 and 1.
So we might get their
And-
kids as adults or something.
Yeah. Well, they won't quite be the legends that Vin and Elend were.
Yeah, it won't be multiple
Because-
100 years.
It'll
Yeah,
it'll
it's
be
a little
like
fresher.
it'll be like looking back at World War II, for example, from
Yeah.
now, as opposed to looking back at the Revolutionary War and previous.
Yeah. And so I just think it's going to be very interesting to see how that affects how these characters are viewed going forward.
To the point where I don't think it's completely out of the realm of possibility for Maxillium to be an old man in the next era.
Yeah.
And we know they're chasing a Mistborn. And
So yeah, I'm not even gonna try and guess who that is because I'm gonna
well,
get it
so
wrong.
so a lot of people guess, could be Kelsier they're trying to go after. Man is causing problems. I can see that. The other theory I've seen is Wax is a Mistborn now.
And is
He and Steris
and is
have more-
married.
Yeah, if they have more kids,
Yeah.
there's a chance
Mhm.
they could inherit that spiritual DNA now.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And this could be a rogue Ladrian,
Oh man. Yeah.
It'll be interesting.
and what if one of the ones trying to hunt them down is a sibling? It'd be really fun.
Oh.
What if it's Hoyd?
Could be that too.
Ooh. Because Hoyt does. I don't know.
I
don't
would
know
kind of
Mist-
love. I would
It feels
love
too
to
early
have
though.
for what?
To catch Hoyd, or whatever they're gonna do. So I don't know.
They don't
No,
necessarily
so
have to catch him, but like
I just-
that can be the trigger that sets
Well,
off everything else. Like he does
Yeah,
stuff,
well-
they start chasing him, and then who
Okay.
knows?
Well, if we do it if it's done that way, then okay. But otherwise, I'm like,
Let me paint a possibility for this.
oh dear.
Let's say members of the 17th Shard who have been hunting down Hoyd finally get there.
Uh-huh.
They need resources, so they implant themselves into various constabularies to try and get the resources to hunt him down as a front for the 17th Shard. Suddenly they're trying to chase down a Mistborn who can't harm people.
Mhm.
And so this is a very Doctor Who-like scenario where they're trying to catch the guy who he won't attack you, but
things
he'll
happen.
come at he'll come at you with weird tricks.
Doctor Who weed.
Oh man.
But yeah,
Now, well, and the other thing is they can catch Hoyt as many times as Hoyt's been caught many times.
sometimes on purpose.
I mean, he was caught back in the time of Elantris.
Yeah.
No, he escaped. He wasn't caught then, but still, like he's been caught many times.
Yeah, I don't know. It just I don't think he's gonna be Hoyd, but yeah, let's just make it.
No.
Probably not. I'm just speculating.
The other thing is maybe someone finally figures out the Lorasium trick, and
Yep.
there could
Yeah.
be all sorts of Mistborn out there.
Maybe
Who
that's
knows?
the Cold War. Is somebody discovers actually how to create Lorasium
Yeah.
and uses it,
to make their own secret.
And both sides are like, okay, we need to get this guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, then on top of it, you have what's going on with the Bands of Mourning,
Mm-hmm.
what's going on with
Yeah.
the Southern Scadrian tech. Can they start duplicating it? So there are plot threads dangling everywhere
All
like a
the-
miscloak.
Yep. I'm holding to my theory that the Bands of Mourning are a mundane forgery that Shy made.
The cover band theory.
Yes, the cover band theory.
Mhm.
All right. But yeah. So, everyone, this has been a ton of fun. We've had some great comments in the chat.
Mhm.
We love hearing from everyone. So feel free to always send in your questions about the Cosmere. You can always email us at cosmerestudies@gmail.com. Just send us a concise email. We might use it for an episode. We appreciate it. You can also send us just, mundane mail, snail mail. Just send it to the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies, P.O. Box 970063, Orem, Utah, zip code 84097. Everyone here, we all have our own personal projects. Let's
Yep.
do what we don't normally get to do and start with Bill.
I get to go first?
Ooh.
Well, many of you may not be aware, but I have recently developed a bit of a smoking habit. And specifically, I have a Traeger, and I've been smoking meats in my backyard.
It's wonderful. He made chicken wings yesterday that tasted like happiness.
I'm very pleased with how it's been turning out. That's not anything that I've I'm like, that's not content that I'm creating, but it's something that I'm enjoying.
Bull
and I
crap,
feel like
that's not content.
On the Discord.
Content.
You put it on Discord. You put pictures.
That's true. I do put it on Discord. So if you're in our
People
Discord,
been
you'll
very
see,
hungry in the Discord.
you'll
Bill has
definitely
gotten
see
comments
pictures
on
of wonderful things that I've been making. I also have 3 more racks of ribs in the freezer that I'm going to be thawing out and cooking up for Memorial Day. And
I think I need a dessert rib tonight.
I'm actually going to be having I'm having all my nephews and nieces over. I'm going to be doing a wing night. I'm going to fill the whole smoker up with wings, and then I'm going to have a variety of sauces and also the hot ones 10. And for anybody who wants to do it, but otherwise you can just enjoy the wings. So yeah, it'll be fun. But outside of that, I do have another podcast. My friend Dylan and I talk about board games, and the podcast is called The Innkeeper's Table. Innkeeper's Table has always been a dream to have a board game cafe of mine, and so the meat smoking has kind of applied to that aspect. All of the things that I enjoy. But we have new podcast episodes come out on Friday mornings. Our most recent episode, we actually hit our 3rd anniversary. And as part of our anniversary each year, we've started doing our top 10 games. And mine from last year and this year changed very drastically. The ones this year actually feel a lot more in line with what I like. So definitely go check that out. We've got other episodes coming up, but we're still working out what's going on. A few things kind of got mixed up recently, so we'll be figuring that out. But definitely check out that most recent episode, and we'll have another one coming up on Friday. So,
all right, Amy, what about you?
My Facebook is Coincidence Cosplay and Props. My Twitter is @Coincidence Cosp because my name is too long. My Instagram is @Coincidence_Cosplay. My TikTok is @Coincidence Cosplay, all one giant word. And my website is www.coincidencecosplay.com. So I have realized that I have like a bunch of content that I never posted from all the way back to like last February or something crazy. So I'm probably going to be trying to actually get that stuff out and just like put out things because I have neglected Instagram and Facebook and things. But pretty much every day this month I have had stuff on TikTok, and it's all been Star Wars because I have my Jawa and I've gone to a couple things as that. So if you want funny things with Jawas and stormtroopers and whatever else, then go to my TikTok and you can find things there. So yeah, that's me.
All right. And you can find me at youtube.com/splicestream, where I am making more amiibo content. We're working on our Amiibomon project, where we're sending out amiibo out into battle like Ash sends out Pokemon. We actually are about to get our first new gym leader. We're making a grass gym leader, followed by normal. And For someone who actually hasn't played a Pokemon game since Gen 2, I'm finding myself stuck in a lot of Pokemon lore that I'm having to ask myself, like, hey, luckily I have a lot of people a lot younger than me that I can ask questions of and be like, is there a symbol for this? And then they'll do the research for me. It's great because I have no clue where to look. I am at a complete loss. But if you're someone who likes Pokemon and thinks there's no way that can work, you should tune in. I think you'll enjoy it. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Bulbapedia is your friend.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I didn't really know about Bulbapedia. Now it's recommending me a lot of Pokemon topics. Whenever I'm starting with letters, I'm like, okay, I have been using this a lot recently, apparently. Yeah, it's definitely whoever's in charge of Bulbapedia, next to the Coppermine, it's one of the most impressive wikis I've ever seen.
Yep.
And they have so many art assets. Oh, thank goodness they have so many art assets.
The Coppermine, Bulbapedia, and the Homestar Wiki from back in the day.
Really? The Homestar Wiki?
It was unbelievable.
It was kind of
to the point where the brothers chaps would actually go back to the HR Wiki to do their own research to exactly.
I know Stephen King did that with the Dark Tower series because he didn't plan it. And I don't remember what, but there was something like he went into the forums and there are people like, he's like, oh crap, I've written myself into a corner here, because he's a pants writer. He's the opposite of Brandon. So he doesn't plan these things out. And then he saw these arguments like, well, I always read it sort of as this thing. And he's like, oh, yes, we're doing that. We're doing that.
Yes, that's what I meant the entire time.
Yes.
I like that he's willing to admit to that he needs that on occasion. It's pretty awesome. But yeah, that's where you can find us. If you like us, I think you'll like our other content. It's good. But more importantly, if you like us, then you might consider becoming patrons over at patreon.com/Cosmere Studies. And, if you can't do that, at least leave us a good 5-star review wherever you listen to your podcast. It's going to be awesome. And we love reading those comments. You can also support us by getting the SICS merch over at store.streamelements.com/Cosmere Studies, or there's a link. And one of these days, someone is going to buy that blanket that I threw in on the store on a lark. And when you do, if you don't send us a picture, I have you will hurt me a little bit. I need to see this thing. Yeah. All right. With all that, final thoughts.
I miss Wayne. It's it's hard.
It's bittersweet, but it's beautiful.
Yeah. Hey, you miss Wayne. Just be helping people because you're meant to be helping people, mate.
Final thought is Isaac let slip that there will be comics of Wax and Wayne in the 80s era Mistborn, and I really, really want them to originate where they found a bunch of Wayne's doodles where he had been drawing out his adventures with.
Yes.
With
and
Wax.
Then I think we kind of talked and said like maybe Maxilium continues them or something. That would be
I
pretty
would
good.
love for Maxilium to be the one who actually makes them.
Yeah.
Well, because we know he bought the likenesses to Wax, and Wax doesn't know that happened. So it's gonna be again. You know what? Maybe it'll be like the Sooty Cubs. That old man Wax is gonna be like, this isn't what it was like.
No, I want Maxilium to be the one who starts the comics. Like I want Maxilium to be the Stan Lee of Wax and Wayne comics.
WW.
And he has a cameo in every issue.
No, I want that, and I also just if we can get it, like I want it in actual like pulp style if we can get it. I know we're gonna get the Nikki Savage story from Isaac at some point as well. But I just this is just another thing. I love that Brandon's letting us keep playing in the sandbox.
Yeah.
I mean, this is this is sort of what he had in mind when he started this Legacy series, but more so now that he has the team to back him up on it.
And what a team.
Yeah.
All right. So in addition to live episodes of the show that stream on twitch.tv/Innkeeper's Table every 2 weeks on Monday nights at 7:30 p.m. Pacific, 10:30 p.m. Eastern, listeners can find our videos on YouTube or audio versions of the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and just about any other services that carry podcasts by searching Cosmere Studies. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook under the profile @Cosmere Studies. For our next episode, we are going to go from something that was nice and heartwarming to something absolutely bone-chilling as we dive into the terror that is Terravodium. We're not going to spoil everything here about it, but make sure you're caught up on your Rhythm of War, because we're going deep.
Yep.
So join us for a live discussion in 2 weeks on Monday, June 5th, 2023 at 7:30 p.m. Pacific, 10:30 p.m. Eastern at twitch.tv/Innkeeper's Table to join in on discussion. Until then, on behalf of Amy, Bill, and myself, thanks for listening, and remember,
There's always another
secret.
secret.